swing away. Okay, good evening. This is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, and it's the Norfolk Conservation Commission. The first action item is 38 Massachusetts Avenue, a request for a COC. We received the request, DEP file number 240-0237. Caitlin, you took a site visit.
So the commission received the request for COC last week, March 5th, for DEP file 240-237, which is 38 Mass Ave, or Lot 25, as it's identified in the order of conditions. This order of conditions is for the Christina Estates subdivision, so it's quite a large project, and actually I could not, we didn't have many, well, we have a lot of files for Christina Estates, but I just specifically looked at Lot 25 for this. I conducted a site inspection this past Monday, March 10th. I found the site currently improved by a single-family home, paved driveway, retaining wall, stormwater BMPs, and maintained and landscaped lawn areas. At the time of inspection, all disturbed areas were found to be stabilized. And based on my review of the submitted materials and files we have in the land use department, it appears that portions of the project related to Lot 25, including the stormwater BMPs, were constructed according to the approved work and the approved plans.
Thank you. Questions? Kind of a straightforward action item.
So for recommendations, it's my opinion that the commission has all the information needed to issue a partial certificate of compliance for DEP file 240-237 related to Lot 25. The commission may also consider issuing a full COC for the project. The order of conditions for that did expire quite some time ago.
So should we just send it? Basically close it out, issue the full CFC?
So for the last subdivision order of conditions that was requested in front of the board, the board decided to just issue a full COC because like this Christina Estates, that subdivision had also been constructed a number of years ago.
What would the benefit be for issuing a partial versus a full?
So the benefit would be to residents in Christina Estates that might not have received or excluded their lot from that larger order of conditions. So going forward, when they sell, or I think it's mostly sell, not necessarily refinance, they don't have to wait on the commission to issue a COC.
Is that that's for a partial?
For a partial.
For one lot.
Okay.
So is the partial for the DEP 240-0237 and the full for the 240-03848?
Yeah, so
Okay, so
348 is for the house itself.
And you say we'll issue a full COC on that?
Yes.
Yes.
And a partial, okay. I got that.
You following us?
Yep.
Okay, so any other questions, comments? Anybody in the audience? I'll accept the motion to issue the partial certificate of compliance for DEP 240-0237.
Johnstone, so moved.
Second?
I'll second. Paul Cool,
Is there
second.
any other discussion? Again, from the audience and the TV. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes. So then we come up to the one for the house itself, the 240-0348, as Caitlin just explained. So I'll accept a motion to issue the full certificate of compliance.
Adam Zucker moves, we accept the full certificate of compliance for DEP 240-0348.
Jim Olson, second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'll do my, what I should have done in the beginning. In accordance with the provisions of MGL Chapter 30A, Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Conservation Commission will meet on Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Town Meeting Hall, Room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in person at 1 Liberty Lane or by remote zone. Note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technology problems interrupt the remote connection. Now I'm back on schedule. Okay, 41 Turner Street. Is someone here?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Glossa, Glossa Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole, and I am here representing Mark Sawyer and Stephanie Seeley, who are the owners of the property at 47 Turner Street. So they are abutters to 41 Turner Street. And Tim Martin and his wife, Mary Ellen Hurley, who are the owners of 37 Turner Street, who abut this property, and they also live at 40 Turner Street. So as you may know, the order of conditions that the commission issued was appealed to the DEP. And my clients hired me to help them after it was issued to sort of understand the order of conditions and to advise them as to what steps they would need to take to make sure that their wishes are sort of allowed to get to the end of this process. And so the first thing I want to say, Mr. Chairman, is this appeal was no slight to the board at all. We certainly understand that when an applicant brings a project in front of you and presents evidence that shows that the project meets not only the Massachusetts wetland regulations, but your wetland regulations, that for the most part you're obligated to issue an order of conditions. And the same with Caitlin. This is not a slight to you, Caitlin, at all.
Yeah.
And it's not a slight to Dunn and McKenzie or to Russ Waldron. We understand their role. I mean, their role, I play that same role in front of this board and in front of other boards, and we certainly understand what their role is. And it's not a slight to the owner, James Paglia. Mr. Paglia wanted, had a vision of what he wanted that property to look like. His wife had a vision, but his vision and the vision of the abutters were not the same, and they were actually sort of diametrically opposed to each other. The abutters had, what they thought would be appropriate use and alteration to the property. And we're not saying that Mr. Paglia and his wife necessarily were, their vision was completely obnoxious, but what we're saying is that there was no, and again, this doesn't go to the board, but there didn't seem to be any sort of real concrete design and proposed use of the property that was explained to the board. It seemed to be rather vague. It didn't seem to sort of, have a lot of very specific requirements. So when my clients asked me what they should do, I told them, I said, I think your first step should be to appeal the decision, and then that will give them, another sort of bite at the apple to sort of explain what they felt was lacking in the procedure and in the plan and in the final decision. So, but to that end, what happened is that my clients actually spoke with the owner of the property, Mr. Paglia, and actually they came to an agreement where we're going to present an amended plan. I believe that the amended plan is actually better for the environment, and that the board actually, I'm hoping, will be pleased with the amended plan. Certainly, the abutters are pleased, and so that's what I'm here to do. So the first thing I'm going to do, and you do not have this amendment, I'm sorry. Okay. But I'm going to, and I sort of colored it up by hand a little bit. This is the Dunn and McKenzie plan. That's the plan of record. And what I did is, in the reddish color here and here, that's the work that's proposed between 0 and 50 feet of the wetland buffer. And in the green is the work that's proposed between 50 and 100 feet. And when I show you my plan, please keep in mind, this is a 40 scale plan and we drafted a 30 scale plan. So it's going to go, oh, it's a lot bigger, but it really isn't bigger. What this plan shows, however, and again, there seemed to be some, and I looked back at the tapes, there didn't seem to be a real definitive number placed on this, but I placed a definitive number because we can take this plan and scan it into the computer and then measure it with the AutoCAD. So what this plan shows is that the amount of disturbance between the 0 feet and 50 feet is 4,762 square feet.
4,000 what?
4,762 square feet. And the alteration between the 50-foot buffer and the 100-foot buffer is 18,091 square feet. So that's a total of 22,853 square feet. And I know you don't have jurisdiction over the total, over areas that are outside of the 100-foot buffer, but the federal government does, right, under a NIPDES permit, right? So the total alteration of this site is 56,135 square feet. And the reason that's important is that puts you over 43,560, which means a NIPDES permit is required for this project. So I'm just going to jump ahead here. Oops, sorry. So here's our proposal, all right? And I'm just going to jump ahead for 1 second, and then we'll get right back to the plan. But just since we're on this, so the amended plan from 0 to 50, which is this area right here, in that, I know it's maybe hard to see.
No, I got
it.
it.
Sort of that orangey color. That's 3,544 square feet. That's 1,218 square feet less than the other plan, or the approved plan. And
What did you do to get that?
because the other one is over here. The
Oh, okay,
driveway's over
you
here.
sent it back over to the level. Okay.
Right, so we
okay.
sent it there where we have less work within the 0 to 50. The 50 to 100 is 12,808 square feet. That's a difference of 5,283 square feet. How we did that is we moved the building forward. And we're ending our limit of work here, where the limit of work before ended all the way back at the very end, back of the lot, which included all of this area back here. So the total difference is 6,501 square feet. And the total alteration of the site on the amended plan is 40,799 square feet. So now we're below the 43,560. So we're not bringing in the NIPD's permit into this plan. And the other part of this is, and maybe I'll just sort of hold this up next to it so you can see. A lot of our alteration here happens in an area of that lot that's already altered, right? There's an accessory building, a barn, a parking area, and a cart path right here. So what I tried to do was to keep as much of the alteration of the site within the area that's already altered. That's not reflected in those numbers that I just gave you. I mean, I could subtract that out, and it would make quite a difference, but I didn't want to sort of confuse this with that. But just looking at it, you can see, so this area up in here is already altered. And we're actually including that in our alteration, the area where, and I'm going to get to the plan in a second, where we're going to remove the barn, we're going to remove the accessory building, and we're going to remove all of the pavement except the pavement that we need for the driveway. Okay, so I'm just going to get to the plan, and I have a colored up version. Oops. The colored up version here. In this plan, you do have a lane if you want. It's up to you.
Now, Johnny, have you shared all these with the property owner?
Yes.
Okay.
So the property owner is part of this procedure. He understands what's happening here. He has a letter, asking for the amendment to the order of conditions. And then I sent a second letter outlining exactly what the changes were.
Have we received those letters?
We have.
Okay, so here, I'm going to back up a little bit, asking to amend the order of conditions, DEP file 240-0667, by substituting a revised plan dated January 16th, 2025. But I'm going to ask you for a favor at the end. The abutter, Mark Sawyer, and the person who's going to actually build this house came to an agreement, and there's going to be 12 trees planted along here. So I do have a plan that we did yesterday or Monday that shows that we would like to make that the plan of record.
Planting trees is good.
Yeah.
Taking down trees,
Yeah.
No.
So the abutters, Mark Sawyer and Stephanie Seeley, they're this lot right here.
Yep.
And Tim Martin and Mary Ellen Hurley own this lot here, and it goes behind this property as well. So they have appealed the decision to the DEP. The appeal is based mostly on the amount of wetland buffer to be altered in the proximity of the proposed alterations to the wetlands. So Mark and Stephanie, who are the abutters here, were asking, me and others, why does the driveway have to be located, right essentially next to their lot line? And then there was also, as you may recall, some vague, the original plan showed the accessory building, the barn, this paved area to stay. And there was a lot of talk, and we seemed to not really get a good grasp on what exactly was going to happen. Now, we understand that you don't have anything essentially to do with uses. That would be the building inspector, the zoning board, maybe even the planning board. But you do have a say with what uses to an extent might affect the wetlands.
Impact, anyway.
Right. In other words, and to get right to it, is a big thing here was manure. Gathering of manure, where are you going to put it? How do you get rid of it? It's usually a fairly comprehensive
Well,
plan.
you have to put a farm plan in place,
Right,
correct?
right. Well, so under their proposal, though, they would have had to do that in a SWIP and a NIPDES permit, because they have to go, they can't just, it doesn't just cut off when you're done constructing. You have to have a long-term pollution plan,
Right.
so. Right, you're right. Didn't necessarily have to be addressed here, but because it wasn't addressed here, and I'm not saying that you had the right to demand it, but because it wasn't addressed here, it gives the abutters not a feeling of comfort, if you know what I'm saying, because they would rather know, and I don't think it would have been that difficult, to tell you the truth. If I was representing them, I would have just done it. I would have said, here's our manure management plan. This is where we're going to store it. This is how we're going to get rid of it. And so that gave them sort of this feeling of discomfort. Let me just go on here. Yeah, and then just to go back to that driveway that was along here, if you looked really closely at it and got it out there at the site, it was, to me, it would have been impossible to build that driveway without either encroaching on Mark Sawyer's property or encroaching in that little intermittent stream. That property, that land right there, drops off very quickly. You don't really see it. And again, I'm not knocking Dunn & McKenzie. We do the same plans. But it drops off very quickly from the street. And when you just look at 2-foot contours, you don't really see that. And, when we brought this up with the DEP analyst, the answer was, well, we'll just put some retaining walls along there. Well, it doesn't work that way. If you're going to put retaining walls, you got to show them on the plan, and the Conservation Commission has to know about it. You can't just put them up later and, hope for the best. So again, another item that was not very comfortable. My clients didn't feel very good with that. And then, so I kind of went through the numbers, but Stephanie Seeley did comment to the board and at the public hearing about, and again, I know it's not your requirement because it's outside of the 100-foot buffer, but she did ask about, and never really got an answer from the engineer or from Russ, about how much of this area was actually, what was the size of that area that was going to be altered. And not to beat a dead horse, but I did tell them that, there's other regulations that kick in, not necessarily ones that are under this board. Right, so as I said, so the alteration shown on that plan is 56,135 square feet. Right, so, and then, the thing about the manure and all this stuff, so it does get into nitrogen and phosphorus, and those are other items, again, not necessarily part of your requirements, but it would have been nice had the owner and the at the time, and the applicant, because they were separate, sort of get into at least a little bit of a discussion, but instead they just sort of, kind of gave vague answers that were not really, again, making the abutters feel very comfortable. So, as I said, so now the revised plan, we're going to move the driveway to this. We're going to cross the existing culvert here. This is all an existing cart path that runs down here. We're moving the well, which was shown at the very back of the lot, so we don't want to be, because well, it's a little dot on the plan, but I'm sure you guys have seen a well installed. They have to drive a massive truck back there, which means all the trees come down, and they essentially build a road for that truck to drive back there. And then you got to dig a trench to put the pipe in, right? That's got to be 4 feet
Did
deep.
they perk that area? You're proposing a well?
No, no, but we didn't move, the septic system was here, they perked this here. But we moved the well to here where it's has separation to Mark Sawyer's septic system. It has plenty of separation to this septic system, and it's in the cart path. So now the truck comes down, he's in that cart path. No trees have to come down. I mean, maybe some branches that have grown over the years. But there's no trees have to come down now to put this well in. It's in a location and that happens very early in any development or building of a house, because you got to put the well in and see if you have water. You wouldn't build this house and then find out, oh, we don't have a well because there's no water under there. So that happens very early, but we have a path to get there without taking down a bunch of trees and making, sort of a mess in and near the wetlands. So I think a lot of this stuff that I wrote down, I already just talked about. I'm just going to see if I have anything else. Yeah, and then finally, we're not showing any work closer to the wetlands than what was shown on that plan. That plan literally, and again, not knocking anybody, but that driveway plan over there showed the finished contours right next to the wetland flag.
Yeah.
I mean, right next to the wetland flag. If you put that, on your computer and blew it up, it was right there. Here's the wetland flag, here's the limit of work. So right? So we have work right here, but it's in an existing cart path. So we're not any closer. And for the most part, we've moved everything farther away. So, I guess what we would hope is that the board would, and the abutters are here if you want to hear from them, but, what we're asking is that the board vote to allow this plan to be substituted for essentially the plan of record, the plan that's now cited in your order of conditions, and simply issue a new order of conditions. It can be the same order of conditions, I believe, except you're going to change that's up to you. So I'll just show you
I just wanted to
ahead,
make it
Caitlin.
clear.
Yeah.
Because there's an active appeal with DEP, the Norfolk Conservation Commission is not the issuing authority anymore. Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection is. So the commission has no authority to make any changes to vote on this. So I just wanted to make that clear. And this was confirmed by DEP.
So, and I've done this at least a dozen times. You can let us know, and we'll we'll get rid of the appeal. But we want to, we want some assurance that this is going to go forward. We feel that this is a much better plan. The abutters are amenable to this.
And so, based on the conversation that we all had, myself and the appeal party with DEP, it seems that unfortunately the only two options would be to wait until Mass DEP issues a superseding order of conditions, or if a COC is filed for, essentially closing out the project. That's what my understanding was from that conversation.
How can you give a COC if it's not complete?
Well, you can.
So it would be issued.
There's a little box.
Yeah.
you can-
Oh,
So basically, at COC that, yeah, the work was never started.
okay.
But I certainly think this revised plan shows a permittable project. Obviously, it would need to be reviewed, but I don't see any major issues. I mean, there are some substantial administrative changes. The plan itself is prepared by a different firm. The applicant would be, well, depending on when exactly it's filed, the applicant or the property owner may be different. And as far as whether or not the work is closer to the wetlands, definitely the approved project does come close to the wetlands. This does involve the driveway going over the existing cart path, which is fairly old. I haven't had a good look at the pipe that's under there. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a
Well,
look
it's
at
a
that.
high-density polyethylene pipe, so it's not that old.
Do you know the diameter?
I think it's 8 inch. It's on the
8
plan.
inches.
8 inch.
Okay. Well, thank you, John.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, do you think there's any way you can ask the board for consensus on this, or because...
I want to see, is the applicant here? The owner of the property?
I'm not the owner, but I'm in a butter.
Okay, no, I was asking if the owner was here.
I am the owner and
Okay.
soon to be former owner of the property.
Okay,
And I gave, by, I guess, power of attorney, so to speak, for them to apply on their behalf, the buyer's behalf. So it's their application, it's the buyer's application. I'm the seller. We have a purchase and sale agreement. And, but currently, technically, I am the owner. Yes.
and are you in agreement with what John proposed?
Well,
First, you need to come up and identify yourself and use the microphone, please.
Jim, you can just...
I was really expecting this, but...
Or sit that. Front row seat.
Yeah, so my name is Jim Packley, I'm the owner of the property. No longer looking to move forward with developing there. I reached an agreement to sell the property, and that purchaser hired Mr. Glasso to revise the plan, submit a new plan, as opposed to what we had submitted. Frankly, I haven't got into the weeds of what they're proposing because it's really not going to be my problem or my project. If it's approval, I just want it to be approvable. I want to move forward with the sale. Obviously the appeal that's been, encumbering the property has mucked up the works and the sale and everything else. And we did have a call, Caitlin and the DEP person and the abutters and the people that filed the appeal. Appellants, I guess. And we discussed moving forward and how they would like to have comfort with the new purchaser's plans, and that they would be amenable to even dropping the appeal if they all could get on the same page and, be comfortable with what's going to happen. And again, I'm kind of like out of it at this point. I just want to close the deal and move on. I've been tied up, financially and everything else with this. I'm in limbo and there's nothing I can control, so it's a hard position for me to be in. I would just like them all to get together, figure it out, and move forward. And but I haven't really been involved, right, with this because it's their plan. I can't speak to the merits of Mr. Glass's plan. I haven't really studied it. I mean, I know there's an existing cart path, and I thought we had done the most environmentally sensitive approach, but I guess it's a matter of opinion, and I'm not a scientist. There is an existing wellhead, I believe, right there. I don't know if they could use that to do a water test. I found like a dog shed thing kind of partially buried. It looks like a wellhead, but I haven't done any exploring of it. But if that can be used, it would be minimal impact because it's already there. We just need to hitch up a pump and pump the water. But at any rate,
No, I appreciate your input.
yeah, I just want to move forward. So I don't know what, I am in favor of his plan in the sense that I would like things to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any abutters that want to say? Come up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I don't have a microphone.
Timothy Martin, 37 Turner Street. I have no involvement with the purchase of the property. I have no interest there. I'm in favor of the plan, just like Mr. Paglia, the property owner. All the parties are anxious to move this forward. We think this is a much better plan for all the reasons that John stated. My suggestion and my ask is that if the board, if the Conservation Commission would consider, if they like the plan, to approve the plan, condition the approval upon the DEP filing being dismissed. Otherwise, we have a chicken and the egg thing. And I spoke to Mr. Paglia during the DEP hearing, and there are a lot of things we agree on, some things we don't, but we certainly agree that he's tied up. I'm not bailing him out financially. I have no interest in buying it, but he's tied up. So we don't want to get a chicken and the egg thing, back to DEP for 6 months, 3 months, and back and forth. So this would create certainty, and so that's just a recommendation.
Okay.
And I want to thank the board. They were all volunteers. I want to thank you. You heard me a lot ramble, months and months, so sorry for the headache.
Oh, no problem.
Well, it's not pleasant, I understand. And Caitlin's been out to Turner Street probably more than I have now, and I live there, so thank you.
Yeah, it's part of our job. Yeah.
I'm Mark Sawyer. I'm at 47 Turner, the primary abutter.
Okay.
Primary abutter. And I echo what Tim has said. We don't want to hold Mr. Paglia up. It's been a long time. It's been a grueling process for everyone. If the board can do anything to move this forward as quickly as possible, we're in favor of it. We're in favor of this plan. We're in favor of the better impact or lesser impact on the wetlands, and we're looking for a conclusion for everybody's sake.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, can we come back at your next meeting and what we're going to do? So we had an attorney, right, Matt Watsky, Attorney Watsky from Dedham, help us with this appeal. So we're going to go back to him. I did all of this work that you saw tonight, so we're going to go back to him. He is very good environmental attorney. And let him talk to the DEP and to Caitlin, and then we'll figure out what needs to go, how we need to go forward. Because, and again, as Mr. Sawyer said, we appreciate your help here, but we do understand it's a process, and it's a process that you can't, there's rules and regulations, you can't just break them. So let's let the attorney figure out the best way to figure this out so that Mr. Paglia is happy and the abutters are happy, and therefore I would think the commission...
As promptly as he can to put it together so we can review, Caitlin can review it and give us input prior to the meeting.
Yeah. I mean, he's much better at, he knows the process in and out, so he's much better at this stuff than I am. So if that sounds reasonable, I think it's only going to take till your next meeting to figure this out.
Caitlin?
I was just say, since we're here, if the board has any comments or questions about the revised plan as shown, definitely ask them now. So if there are any issues or concerns that you have, we can kind of talk about those.
I do like the revised plan. I think it's less of an impact, and we like that consideration.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Wait a minute, not yet.
It feels like the prospective buyer wants some assurance that it's actually a buildable lot, because his particular building plan wouldn't really have any, bearing on the new buyer's plans for the property. All right, so this is like a maximum that they can do with that property as far as we're limiting the scope of what they can do, but at the same time telling them this is what the property capacity provides you. Kind of.
Well, I mean, a builder who's going to build it to sell is going to buy it. And I have worked with this builder on numerous projects. He wants to present a plan that is sort of palatable to him and whoever he believes that any buyer would want to see. So that's the plan that you see. We didn't, as you can see, we didn't sort of make it like, oh, we're not altering anything. We tried to, this would be probably, if he had come to me before the Dunn & McKenzie was involved, this is probably what we would have drawn.
Right. But this is all, I feel like this is all hypothetical to try to move the property for the owner, right? You want to move it. How do we facilitate that? Because this is all fiction until that transfer happens.
Well, and unfortunately, we sort of removed Attorney Watsky from the process a month or so ago, and I kind of took over this. So I think we're going to find out the best way to facilitate it in the next 2 weeks, and probably within the next few days, because Attorney Watsky can talk to the DEP and find out exactly what would need to be done to have the DEP, sort of swap this plan out, which is what we're asking you to do, for the one that was approved. So why don't we let him do that? I would say if you see anything here now that's completely objectionable to you, this is probably going to be your best opportunity to tell me to change the plan. But believe me, it wasn't, we didn't try to come in front of you and say, make something little bitty tiny just to kind of get out of this process. And, as Mr. Paglia will tell you, I mean, it's kind of like, we want to kind of move it forward. He's been, holding on to this property for quite a while now, and we have a solution, and we'd like to sort of move forward with it. But we don't want you guys to feel all the pressure of having to do this.
We aren't. It's a DEP. We can't do anything until they do something.
Right, okay. So let's, if you don't mind, if we can be on your next meeting, we'll come back with exactly what steps need to be taken, whether, I would hope that you would be involved. I would think you'd want to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Any further questions, comments? Okay.
All right, great.
April 9th is the next
April 9th at, we'll put them first, 7:01.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a public hearing, so I don't think you really need to. It's an appointment.
Yeah.
It's not a public hearing. Not at this point, anyway. If it
Yeah.
is, it wouldn't be on
Maybe we
April
should
9th, so.
Put a time on
Put
it
a time
yet?
on it yet, yeah.
Okay.
Until we,
Yeah.
Until we see what else is.
Attorney
Yeah,
Watsky.
see what Watsky comes up with.
Yeah.
Attorney Watsky comes up with.
Okay.
All right? And hopefully we all leave happy and,
Can move forward.
moving forward. Thank
Okay.
you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, members of the
We
board.
need to vote to move it to next month. It's not a...
No.
No, we can just, it's done. Power of the chair. Okay, let's go on to 28 Long Meadow Road, the enforcement order update. Caitlin, why don't you begin?
Sure. So since the last meeting, I was able to conduct a site visit this past Monday, March 10th. And Elaine, I don't know if you want to pull up some photos. So I can just give a quick update on some observations I made. So I was able to confirm that extensive clearing and filling has occurred in the buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and to a potential vernal pool. The edge of fill is essentially located at the edge of water to that potential vernal pool, and the stockpile of fill is approximately 15 feet high at the edge of water there. Using an average depth of 10 feet, there's approximately 5,000 cubic yards of fill.
Peter?
Wait, how much?
Oh, you're seeing it.
5,000 cubic yards of fill. I observed demolition debris within the fill material, including painted bricks, ceramics, glass, and other waste. And in addition to the trees and vegetation that were cleared, there are also a number of large white pine trees that have been buried by the fill and are likely damaged. I observed heavy sedimentation into the wetlands and the potential vernal pool. The standing water was extremely turbid, and you can see, so that's the stockpile of fill there with the potential vernal pool in the background.
I'm trying.
Yeah, you're doing all right.
Perfect, right there.
All right, Elaine.
My eyes for a minute.
We'll send you to NBC. Okay.
You wanna, I think,
Do you have any other pictures?
some
Or?
photos.
Oh, yeah, she's got a
labeled
bunch of
couple.
them.
You scroll down to the bottom, like photos.
Oh, that was a joke, I get it now.
We're going to take photos.
I saw them today.
Did you take the trees, Caitlin?
No, that was done by Goddard Consulting, who the property owner has hired as a representative. Yeah. That's a shot of the vernal pool. And actually, that's the
Oops. That one's better.
Growing on a hill. And that's the brick,
shoulder or
the painted brick
It's
and debris.
this is the meeting.
What's that
because there were
pipe?
some photos at the end.
It's a tree.
Oh, yeah, it was a branch.
It's a tree.
That were
It's a
photo 1 through 4.
Did you want to see?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's the, yeah, you see what that is? Dave?
Yes, I do. I can see the tree.
So can you actually just X out of this and then scroll down to the bottom of this folder? And then start next photo 2. Okay, so that's one we looked at, and then the next one. So this photo here kind of just shows the quality of water within the potential vernal pool. And then if you zoom back out, actually, or go to the next photo, photo 4. 4. So here you can kind of see some of at the edge of the fill, some of the pine trees that are buried by that potentially could be damaged.
Okay. The applicant or the owner?
I'm not the applicant, but I am joined by the homeowner over here.
Okay.
My name's Chris Frateroli. I'm a wetland scientist with Goddard Consulting. We were retained by the owner as of about a week ago. So last week I did go out and delineate the wetlands. I believe I have enough for everybody if we'd like to take one and pass one down. I kind of generated this graphic so that we had something to at least talk about here. And just to be clear, these are kind of approximated lines traced with iPhone GPS, so a fair margin of error there, but at least so we have something to look at here.
Okay.
Those flags that we had pointed out earlier, I did flag the edge of the wetland in blue tape, and I also flagged kind of the limit of work in yellow tape. So I think we saw some of those in the photos here, and we'll continue to talk about those momentarily. Thankfully, for a good portion, really the entire site, the wetland edge is very well defined, so I was able to quickly delineate it. I think it's a pretty clear break in both vegetation and soils there in the unimpacted areas, so fairly straightforward delineation. The handful of flags right along the edge of the fill pile, there's a little bit of interpretation involved there because obviously we can't see the ground surface. So based on what vegetation I could still observe there and the amount of soils that I was able to access through that bit of fill there, I did kind of approximate the wetland boundary in that area under the fill material. So what we're looking at here is that solid blue line all the way at the top in the north of this image is that approximate wetland line that I delineated. Then we also have 50 and 100-foot buffer zones shown in those dashed lines there. The kind of yellow polygon there is what we identified as essentially the limit of work. So what we're looking at in terms of impacts is that fill pile did come up pretty much to the right to the edge of the wetland. It has sort of tumbled downhill into the wetland to the tune of about 1,800 square feet. We do also have some buffer zone impacts to the 50-foot, slightly under 10,000 square feet, and to the 100-foot, slightly under 16,000 square feet of total disturbance there. So that's kind of what we're looking at on the ground. Again, these are preliminary numbers just so that we have an idea of what we're talking about.
What's your recommendation for remediation?
So immediately what I would recommend is we get some pretty robust erosion controls installed, certainly at the base of that fill pile, ideally as quickly as possible. I think that that's a pretty easy thing that we can do to have a pretty large impact here. Depending on exactly what it looks like when we go out to do that, I might also recommend a second line of erosion controls a little further below that, just to catch anything that makes its way through. I think as we kind of start to warm up here, it might make sense to throw some seed down, at least on that slope, to hopefully grab onto that soil and stabilize it at least a bit, at least in the short term here, as we figure out how we're going to proceed in terms of actually doing some work here. I think what our desire here would be, understanding that this was obviously not permitted ahead of time, we would like to seek approval for this after the fact with a notice of intent. We're under that 5,000 square foot kind of magic number as far as wetland fill goes. Obviously, we know our obligation to provide wetland replication, buffer zone mitigation, and anything of that sort. So we're kind of still exploring our options in terms of how we might move forward here, but wanted to bring it to the commission tonight to hold some discussion and essentially let you know that that is the path we'd like to take here.
Okay. Well, I think that we have a number of concerns. Through our calculations, we think there's over 5,000 cubic yards of fill came in there, which is 300, over 300 trucks. That's a lot of fill.
Absolutely.
And we don't know where that fill came from.
Sure.
So we need to get that identified.
Sure.
That's number one. The erosion controls are a good thing, yeah, especially, well, it's going to rain tonight, but yeah, we don't want any more impact on the vernal pool. And then I mean, we want to plan to remove it.
Noted. I think the desire here would be to find a way to work with you folks to make this a permittable project. I would expect that we at least pursue that avenue to some degree here.
Yeah, you can talk to Caitlin next week.
Absolutely.
I'll give her a call, make an appointment, and you can discuss it, and she'll then give us her input on what we might be able to do.
Yeah, we'll absolutely do that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that you're looking for a way to keep some of this fill material here and kind of permit it after the fact. I think if the commission could kind of, not necessarily tonight, but come to a consensus on the 50-foot no disturb buffer and whether or not that needs to be held for this, because that as far as what happens with the enforcement order, that's going to be a big piece of
Well,
that.
I think, to be consistent, 50-foot is a rigid thing for us.
The commission has been pretty consistent
We don't,
on maintaining that.
Alleviate from that.
I'd have to agree with you, because we've had 2 issues last year where we had similar wetland violations of fill that we demanded that they be removed and reseeded with what was originally there. So we got to kind of, be fair and even and equitable, and that's how we are. So that 0 to 50 foot, I mean, that's just my opinion from what we've done in the past, and everybody has their say, would be a minimum of what needs to be replicated to what it was before.
Sure.
And then the only other thing I'd have a question is, along with the silt fence, what you'd recommend.
So
Sock is what, good for 6 months?
I think
So we'd
how
have
you were
to-
going with the 2 lines might be the best bet here. I don't really think you would need a heavy-duty sock there, and I don't think that's feasible installing one out there. So I think the two like silt fence barriers would be the best bet to prevent any additional sedimentation.
I think that's kind of fair now, and I like the idea of at least seeding that sloped area so that you don't have any more damage that you need to replicate later on. That's a least expensive, and then we can figure out once spring hits and a little easier and better weather that what we're going to do for the whole entire plan.
Sure. So we'll certainly plan on a full perimeter silt fence and a second row, at least in the closest portion to the wetland right there.
Okay.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Once we start to warm up a little bit more, we'll get some seed down on that slope and at least provide some temporary stabilization in that regard.
Okay.
Do we?
Wait a minute. Well, go.
Yeah, one more question.
One more.
Do they need a DEP number for this?
No, this work can be done under the enforcement order.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if we were to come forward with a notice of intent to try and permit this after the fact, at that point, we would file with both you and DEP and get a DEP number at that point, but we're just kind of taking restoration and remediative actions at this point. Don't think we need a DEP number.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments?
I do have a quick question regarding a couple of photos that I assume Caitlin had provided for us that were very evident. You can see one here clearly, the milkiness in the water.
Right.
I'm sure you're aware of runoff. The second thing, the way it's compiled around those trees, it's going to kill the trees that girdle.
Yes.
So that would be my concern, which, is pretty obvious. I mean, clearly, I'm sure you're taking that under consideration when you formulate your plan.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Paul.
And another, so as far as whether or not it's a certifiable vernal pool, I couldn't find anything on record as to whether or not there's vernal pool species there, but I think any sort of remediation restoration plan should address whether or not it makes sense to potentially wait on restoring that until after the breeding season. Obviously, there's sediment throughout the pool at this point. Then, from what I know so far, I think it might, in my opinion, might make sense to wait until a drier time of year to not do additional damage.
Sure. Yeah, and we're about to come into vernal pool season any day now, probably. So I don't think it would cause a terrible delay if we were to go that route.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think this all makes sense. This is good information for us. I hope that the commission's been able to kind of ask any questions that may be lingering here.
Yeah, I think
if there's any more, I'm certainly happy to do my
we'll
best to
revise
answer.
the enforcement order to state about the erosion controls.
Sure.
And will be inspected as required.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I did prepare some recommendations if a revision to the enforcement order would take place. One of them, revising the language to have specific erosion controls, which it sounds like the sill fencing in the 2 rows in the closest areas. I can't remember, did you say you delineated all the wetlands already?
I did, from one property line to the other, yes.
Okay, I think,
Through your phone, as I recall.
Well,
On your phone?
I did hang flags in the field.
Right. No, I saw the blue flag.
Yes, they're shown on this plan with iPhone GPS, and I do have one more question about that once you finish up here.
okay, so I think in addition to changing the language to have more specific erosion control information, the enforcement order also be revised so that the applicant submit a restoration plan for the April 9th meeting, which would include a delineation of any and all wetland resource areas on the site, the erosion and sedimentation control plan, and a remediation / restoration plan for the wetlands and buffer zone as applicable. And then I think, I don't know, were you going to mention about the survey?
This was something I was going to ask. So obviously this rendition of the plan, iPhone GPS, mediocre accuracy. We do also have a Trimble device, which frequently we can get down to, sub 6-inch accuracy with post correction. I wanted to bring it to the commission now. I think trying to get a survey crew out there could end up lingering for a while. We'd be able to essentially GPS those flags with close to survey level accuracy, basically at the flip of a switch, if the commission would be willing to entertain that as a way to kind of locate wetland flags and discuss a little bit more precisely.
Is that an acceptable way of,
Yes, I think that would be acceptable.
for where we're at now?
For what we're looking at.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom?
We are going to get an analysis on the material that was brought in, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna do whatever I can to get some information on that. My understanding is that it's come from a variety of sources, so there might not be one definitive answer, but we'll at least get you whatever information we
And
can on
any
that front.
information you can give us on the source.
Yes.
So the reason I'm asking that as well is we'll revisit this obviously, but then I'm going to be curious onto when it's removed,
Contamination.
where it's going.
Sure.
If it's going to be put on the site somewhere else, we need to know where that's going to be,
Sure.
unless it's going to be taken off site.
Right.
And the other thing that we noticed with Caitlin's photo is the red paint. And is that lead paint?
I don't know that.
It's suspicious that because it's from a building, an older building, it might be
Noted.
a
We'll
probability, but you'd have to test it, let us know.
yeah, we'll certainly look into gathering whatever information we can about.
You can obtain
That-
lead tests
right.
from Home Depot,
Right.
any of those places.
We'll certainly
The
look
only
at that.
question I do have in regarding structural, there's quite a depth, up to 15 feet, I
Right.
heard. Once you remove that, how do you intend to structurally stabilize it?
Oh, we're not there yet.
No, I was just,
Yeah.
that'll be included in the plan?
We'll keep that in mind, absolutely.
Right, that was my question, it'll be included.
That's a major step.
Right.
There was one other note. I think there had been some conversation about a fence to be installed when you were at the site. I just wanted to make clear that that is still intended to happen here. It's going to be, I wish that I could share this a little better. The location of that fencing is going to be within this ring over here outside of the buffer zone. Just wanted to make you aware of that outside of the buffer zone.
That's for his
This is the horse farm.
horse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll continue our due diligence, so to speak, here, and we'll come back to you folks.
Okay. Look forward to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Contact the office and we'll put you on.
Absolutely. We'll talk.
Thank you, yep.
Okay. That ends our action items. Did everybody read the minutes?
Thank you, Adam.
I've been too busy campaigning. I'm only joking.
I didn't see anything.
Wait, you're campaigning for what?
No.
Oh, Chris. Adam, I was joking.
I know, and I was gonna make a joke
you were gonna do a
myself.
joke
I
too?
was,
No, I was joking
No,
around.
don't.
but yeah, now's probably not the time.
No.
Has Mirror Lake done any more, or is that?
No.
What are you here for?
28 Long Meadow.
Oh,
I live at 2 Blueberry next door.
oh, okay, I'm sorry. Come on up. Come on up.
How did we get by that?
It's down here,
okay.
or,
No, I have nothing to say.
Oh, you're just interested. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
My concern, because I don't know anything about vernal pools and I have no idea, it's diametrically as far on his property as you can get from my house. 2 Blueberry, his driveway is our neighbor.
Yeah.
My bigger concern has been the truck traffic. There's been 200 or 300 dump trucks over the last 4 months. And the street's a mess now. There's little kids with good weather, and that's not conservation.
Now, who has jurisdiction over there? Just the
For this, like,
DPW?
DPW, but I'm surprised that this happened and there was no complaints and no, I mean, I worked,
Official complaints with the
I worked for the
DPW?
DPW and we knew nothing of this.
I made the mistake of going to the building
Ah,
Okay.
person.
Yeah. But,
And another neighbor did go speak to the owner, and apparently he also owns a street sweeper. And he did clean the street a couple of times, but it was, I mean, there were walks this big
Yeah.
on the street.
so, I mean,
can we contact DPW? Is it proper for us to do it? Or should the neighbor?
Yeah, I mean, if you could contact DPW, I think, 'cause, yeah, the commission doesn't have jurisdiction over that.
Well, there's been no traffic since.
No, but if it's
Okay.
dirty now,
It isn't fine now. Last spring and, I'm sorry, last fall and winter, it was a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, it
yeah,
was,
so that's, but it's, the rain and everything now is back to normal. There's no damage
Right.
to the road physically.
right, there was, I've lived in this house for 39 years.
Yeah.
On Long Meadow, there was, for the first time that I have ever seen, a frost heave about that.
Yeah, that was the weather. But well, all I'm saying is if there's nothing wrong now, I wouldn't bother with DPW or nothing. But if in the future you do see serious trucks,
Yeah.
unless it's per the Conservation Commission for them to be removing stuff, and that will be on their order of conditions to keep the road clean at that time. So we shouldn't have any issues like that. You agree, Dave?
I concur.
Okay, so.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Do you mind if I sit and listen to the rest?
Not at all. It's an open meeting. All right, so back to the minutes. Anybody have questions, comments? No. Did our man do a good job in?
I didn't get to read all of them, but what I did get to
Scrutinizing?
read looked pretty good. You did a great job again, Adam.
Outstanding.
I didn't, she's the one who puts them together. I have to go over
Why were
them.
you taking the credit then?
I'm not.
Graciously taking the credit, no less. Sure.
Okay, so I'll accept a motion to accept the minutes of February 12th.
Al Finney, I'll make a motion to accept the February 12th minutes.
Second?
Peter Gokin, the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
My favorite part
Now.
of the meeting,
What?
the Liche report.
Line 32, I had a question about.
It's pink. Okay. So, the new old business. There's a piece of land on Everett Street that is going to be up for purchase, and the town has the right of first refusal.
Do we have on a map where on Everett it is?
Oh, yes, Elaine, do you mind pulling that up?
And it's a wooded area.
It's on the same side as Four Kicks.
It's on the right-hand
That's what
side,
I
past
assumed.
Everett, on the
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's a piece that's there, then there's a house, and it goes around the house.
That's what I thought, okay.
The house used to be
Yeah.
owned, or is Todd Roween. Roween
Put it in the meeting
Construction. He
folder? I'm
owns
not
he
sure.
owns
Put it in
a
the case
house.
folder.
But it goes all around back, and if you take a right
Okay.
on Everett up to the cemetery,
Yeah.
it goes right up to the cemetery.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
On the left
Yeah,
side.
that's
obviously,
the one that I
Everett.
assumed it was
Right
gonna
up
be,
to the
okay.
cemetery entrance and then goes out
Scroll
to the woods there.
down.
It's a good chunk of land.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think I printed
I
this
think
one.
for, I'll say conservation, open space,
Yeah.
it would be a nice piece of property for the town
You
to
want to zoom out? maybe?
address.
Most definitely. Do you know, Dave, how much the price
Acreage.
they're looking at on it?
Wasn't
You
it
can afford it.
I
No,
think
was it
I was,
280? No.
60, under 60?
I thought I
thought it
saw
was-
60 or 40-something
40, I
thousand,
thought it was.
I thought it was 340.
or is it?
I saw 40. I thought
I
it
mean,
was-
it's-
Again, it was,
I figured it was
Okay.
a typo, because I saw 40,000, I'm like,
Right
it
here,
can't be
400.
right.
take it out of petty
50.
cash.
There it is. You saw the
It was
assessed
assessment
value at
Oh,
49.
yeah.
That's only for
Offered.
taxes.
Right, offered at
Okay.
40, I believe.
There's a lot of wetlands in there, a lot of wetlands.
Which,
Yes.
How many acres? is
which
it
side of
going on?
Everett is this just
it
off of
is,
150?
Yes, if you take a right on Everett, it's on the left-hand side.
I think it's under
Oh, all that wetlands.
11.
It's a big
I thought it was
Yes.
right around 10.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
You've been there, the cemetery's on the right.
Yes.
Well, it's the land
You can
from
read the
when you turn
bottom,
onto Everett
the
to the
acreage.
cemetery entrance. That's pretty much all on that left side.
All, it's 13.
And there is a vernal
13.
pool, or there's something there.
Sizable
Yeah.
piece
Oh,
of
you think
property.
there's a vernal pool?
It's a vernal pool or some, there is wetlands, right off the road, you can see it.
So other departments may have interest in it too, but what I would like to do, if you concur, is we'll send a letter to the select board telling them such, so that they can figure out what they need to do to take the first offer. Because you'd have to go through probably CPC
I was
funds.
gonna say, can we get CPC funds for
Yes,
open
but it's
space?
too late for May, so it has to be November, so they have to
with
figure out the financial.
Yeah, so when Chapter 61 land is taken out of Chapter 61 to be sold, the town has the right of first refusal and the right to purchase the sale. So if the town exercises the right of first refusal, they can purchase the property for the assessed value, which I believe is, I thought I read 340, but we've heard a lot of numbers. And so the planning board at their meeting last night did vote in favor of the town exercising refusal, and considering, the significant, amount of wetlands, mapped wetlands, and based on the aerials that I looked at, it looks like there's actually more wetlands out there, and it sounds like that's correct. So I think the commission would have an interest in this as well, and would be wise to also vote in favor of exercising right of first refusal.
Questions, comments?
And did you say some other department would be interested in purchasing it, or
Possibly.
do you know who?
Do I have to identify them?
Yes.
I guess affordable housing
Okay.
might have interest.
So I think in general, so there's a number of parties that have to be notified with this process, conservation being one of them. I think in general, from what I know, it seems like every department, board has, thinks it's a good idea. It hasn't, as far as the commission should send recommendations that I can draft to the select board of how the land could be used if we do move forward with first refusal. I certainly think, it's 285, so I think we were all wrong. I think there is some conservation value in the property, for sure.
And then if it if it is purchased by us, is there, like, do you think there's usable land for trails or
definitely.
just?
If you saw the picture there, to the left of the lot that has a house on it, to the left of that is that's high.
Okay.
So I've not been out in the woods there, but I would assume a lot of that. Yeah, so see to the right side here, that corner there, that's pretty high and dry, I think. The wetlands are more to the left. The part I was talking about along Everett Street is the blue, that blue
Okay.
section, that's all wet,
Yeah.
so. But,
That's a really cool piece of property.
Yeah, it is.
it's a
Yeah.
good sized piece of
And
property.
there's not too many of them come in front of the town.
No.
Of that size, which takes us to another topic for another day.
Residential neighborhood.
What we can
But I
do is
guess I would accept,
trails.
let's make a motion that we are interested in it for conservation land.
So then you would want to vote in favor of the town exercising right
Right.
of first refusal.
You got that, Adam?
Sure.
Say it.
I move that we encourage the town to exercise its right of first refusal on the aforementioned property at Everett Street
For conservation
for conservation.
Use.
use.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Just that I'll draft a letter to the select board, kind of outlining the conservation value of the property.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? Okay, the next meeting is on April 9th. Right here, at 7 o'clock.
We're going in front of the town meeting for the Campbell Forest, correct?
Yes, CPC has approved it, right? A $70,000 warrant article with CPC funds to go ahead and survey Campbell Forest and do trail mapping and stuff like that. In addition to that, I substituted at the Norfolk Agricultural School, and they have a class that can also do, forget about plant science.
Environmental science.
But they can map it for us also with GPS. So the teacher encouraged that they would like to do that as a class exercise. So I'll probably take them up on that.
Yeah, not my class, but
Yeah.
someone else's class.
Does that prevent the 4-H team from getting lost in the woods?
You're not responsible for that. Put tags on them. In regards to Campbell Forest, looking to do a spring cleanup, hopefully in April, where we would get a number of groups together, the Lions, the Grange, 4-H, and we do a day of work out there, kind of do a little trimming by the trail and then fill it in with wood chips.
Have we heard any more, Dave, from the bicycle
Not for that.
group?
No.
From NEMBA?
Yeah.
No.
Are we going to be allowing them into other areas in town, or are we going to stick?
We
right-
could, and they had brought that up. It's a good point. I will call the
I'm
gentleman.
just wondering, I mean,
Yeah, no, we'll
I don't know
call.
if we want them in Campbell Forest per se, but, I mean, they said
They
they
can't, we can't deny it.
would assist us in
Yeah.
cleanups, and, I mean, I just was wondering if we'd heard from them.
Yeah, no, and I think, it's winter and all,
Yeah.
but I'll reach out to them. Thank you for bringing that up.
Especially any purging that need to be done.
Yes, and there will be. Going towards Alice Avenue. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Peter Cohn, so moved.
Thank you all.
Second?
Thank you.
All in favor?
All right.
Good to see you.